Guys, let's start with 1982. Bloomington Lincoln, the high school, closes, and then there was a big influx of all these Lincoln kids, because my memory was they kind of gave the option to those juniors at Lincoln in '82, the option of which high school that they could go to the following year, whether it was Kennedy or Jefferson. And most of at least the athletes decided to come to Jefferson. And you guys come off a state championship season, and now you have all these extra athletes coming from Lincoln. So what are your memories, or what did you, how did that go as far as bringing these new athletes in that weren't in your program up to that point?
Well, that was a very difficult thing, because we had a good group coming back, a bunch of good kids coming back, and we knew there were some good kids coming from Lincoln, and good kids. I mean, our job was to try to blend them, and we anguished over that so much, of who to keep, who not, and try to give everybody the best opportunity.
Right.
But the whole school was packed with 2,400 kids. You know, that was tough. We wanted to do through that again. Good athletes.
Right.
You're always looking for them.
And then we had coming in that guard from Kennedy transferred over to that.
Ray Branch.
Yeah. So it was, I think you had something like 8 or 9 starters coming back from the previous year, wherever they'd played basketball the previous year. So that was tough. And also, we cut my nephew. That was really difficult. Jerry Opatz's son, we got cut that year. And he just had to cut. You just couldn't keep 30 guys on a basketball team. And that was really complicated. That was really not much fun at first.
It kind of hurt. Any cut hurts. I mean, over the years, I can't think of any that I made that didn't hurt. But
Bruno's nephew got cut too that year, as I remember. Bruno Waldner's nephew. So, I mean, it was very difficult. It kept more kids than normal, I think, that year we did, but you just couldn't keep, as I said, 25 or 30.
Would you guys say that was about as challenging of a coaching decision when it came to making the team or getting cut all the years that you guys were coaching here?
Well, I would say that every year. I don't care whether you got good kids coming back or bad. If you've got 35 kids trying out for a team, they all want to be part of it. And it's just tell some young man, well, I'm sorry, we can't keep you. We've got limited numbers of uniforms, and
Right.
it's just the nature of the game. And that's still today, you look back over all the years, that's some painful decisions. But, and most of the kids, we've never had transfers, so we've had kids come through our program. So we know them pretty well. And that was tough.
I can remember one of the more interesting cuts was Jim Dutcher's son. The year, his senior year, Brian, who now is coaching Division I basketball, but he, Jack we just presented to him that, you're probably, we can keep you if you're going to sit, if you can accept sitting on the bench. And he said, oh, coach, I want to be on the team, no question about it. I said, no matter what. So Jack kept him. We kept them, and ironically, I think one of the first games of the season, we were playing at St. Louis Park, and we had injuries and fouls, and we went into overtime, and who's on the floor but Dutcher playing for us.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic, yeah.
Well, so basically every season, did you typically do that as far as making cuts? Is you'd always kind of, because I think you did that in '87 with Rob DeCourcy and maybe one or Tom Jasper, where you kind of allowed them, you kind of gave them, you're probably not going to play much varsity, but we'd love to have you on the team. Did you do that a lot or most seasons?
When I started out coaching, it was quite typical. You just, if your name, I'm going to post a list. If your name's not on the list, then you're considered cut.
Right.
And over the years, I look at some of those kids we cut. It's so impersonal that Jake and I talked it out. And when we had a cut, we'd call them in, and we'd go into the locker room there and explain to them. And it's tough. Most of them couldn't agree with it, but we'd really like to have you. But the numbers game and these kids, in our estimation as coaches, these people are ahead of you. But we would like to maybe have you stick around. We always got room for stats. It's diminishing your interest, but stats or manager of some sort and be part of the team.
Right.
And we did have a couple that did that. But
And like in Dutcher's case, he said, well, I can accept, I want to be on the team even if I'm not going to play. And he accepted that. And as I said, ironically, one of the first games of the year, we had injuries and fouls, and we went to an overtime game, and who's on the floor but Brian Dutcher. So, and playing okay.
Right. So we're talking about that 82, 83 transition from Lincoln closing into just 2 high schools in Bloomington. Was it difficult to bring in the kids from say, Lincoln, or even Ray Branch from Kennedy, when they don't know the system, they don't know how it works? That must have been challenging because they didn't know, if you want to call it the Jefferson basketball way, to teach them how things worked.
well, I guess we were very patient. Maybe they were good players. I mean, there was talent there, but we were patient to try to give them time to pick up the system and learn. And like I say, they were good athletes, so it wasn't that hard. But and we had a couple that year that never did remember out of bounds plays and things like that.
Right.
That happens any year. But
And that was actually Sean. Sean Day started as a freshman at Lincoln in '82, and then he moves to Jefferson, and he had a great senior year in '84, '85, but he probably struggled a little bit more when he came in, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I think so, yeah. And like Jack said, we definitely wanted to be fair to them because they were coming into a new program and they had no choice. The school was closing, so we wanted to give them every chance to be able to prove themselves, to get a chance to play. And so we played some of them, and in my mind, some of the kids from Jefferson, they were the ones that suffered a little bit in a sense because they would have started or they would have been ahead of these guys, and it didn't turn out that way. But as the season wore on, it sorted itself out, and I think that's the game where that kid from Edina threw in that 60-foot shot to beat us and right to get to the state tournament. So we ended up having a good team, and
We'll get to that. Well, one more question about the Lincoln closing part. How about the whole process of a high school closing and you guys keeping your jobs as coaches and maybe even teachers to some degree as well? And because I remember that time they didn't know, there was no word on that which school was going to close. Well, eventually turned out to be Lincoln, but what was that process like for you going through a school closing in this city?
well, and then your job was up for jeopardy too, because these guys have been in the system for a number of years, the coaches, and we knew them and respected them. And you didn't want to have them just because the school was closing, a lot of their personnel coming over. So we felt sorry about that too. And then someone came over as teachers, to be honest with me, had a very difficult time adjusting. It was a modular program, and the school was built different than a very solid school, Lincoln.
Yeah.
And here you got the smaller classrooms, or whatever it may be, and some took a while to adjust, and a couple I don't think ever adjusted to it. So it was tough for the community, coaches, and athletes, and teachers.
And Joey Hutton, of course, had been head coach at Lincoln for years. And so what's going to happen, in a sense, when they close the building and here Jack is established and successful all around, but I didn't know if I had a job either. It'd bring in, force, in a sense, Joey Hutton to take over as an assistant if it turned out to be that. But as it turns out, I don't think he wanted to coach anymore, and so that was easier all the way around.
Boy, had he wanted to continue coaching, that could have gotten interesting, right? Could they have gone over your head, Jack, as far as,
Yeah, they just said that all jobs would be, you'd have to be hired again. I mean, it wasn't, because we were here and established, that wasn't what it meant. It was our job. So every job was up for jeopardy, and the teaching positions. And
right.
Yeah, that was an interesting, difficult thing from that standpoint, adjusting to, I'm sure, more difficult for them, the kids that came in, it made it, I know Bruno in football was trying to be fair to the Lincoln kids also, and I think that they got a fair shake, but I always kind of wondered about the Jefferson kids that were coming back, whether it was easy to be fair to them in the process, because you're going out of your way to make sure that you're welcoming to the Lincoln crew that their school closed, and so they got to get a fair shake as far as an opportunity to play. And I know Jack went out of his way definitely to give them every chance. I think when Lincoln closed, I think 3 of the guys that came over from Lincoln were starters over there in basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Jack had defending state championship team, and we had some decent, good players coming back also in the process. So that was a challenging thing from my perspective.
And also, within myself, and I think you too, Jake, but these kids, some of them had 2, maybe 3 schools closed on them. Junior high, elementary, and they had to go, this is third choice for some of them. And what the future was for.
Yeah. How about that? Do you think one thing that did help you guys stay together as a coaching tandem is the fact that you just won a state championship? I would imagine that was a part of maybe keeping it together, because it was obviously so successful in '82.
Well, I think definitely if Joey Hutton wanted to continue coaching, or his assistant over there, who both of them came here, if they wanted to continue coaching, it would have been a challenging situation. Now, Jack, they're not going to replace me. Well, that's, as an assistant, I'd be the one that would have to go probably, or move into a different situation over here. So it was, but as long as Joey Hutton didn't want to continue coaching, as far as I know, and he just gave it up, and also his assistant, I can't think of his name offhand, Marty Carlson,
Yeah.
And so neither one wanted to continue coaching, so that was easier from our coaching standpoint.
Okay. All right. Let's change gears to a different direction for you guys. Yes.
I was interested to find out, like, with practice, when those kids came over from Lincoln, did they change their practice at all, or how did they operate and give those kids an extra chance?
Okay, you guys heard the question. Once the influx of Lincoln kids came, did you guys change much of your practices? Did you do things differently because you had more kids that you kept on the team, or, like I was kind of asking, just to teach them the Jefferson way of how to do things and how to be a part of a successful winning program? Is there much that you guys did or change up?
I don't think we changed anything. This is the way we operated, and this is the way our program's gone. I don't know whether their practices were that much different than ours. We played a little different style, I guess.
Right.
We ran a little more, and we pressed, and some didn't. But no, we didn't change anything for that. And I don't get any repercussions from the kids. They wanted to play, is all.
Yeah, I don't think, from my perspective, I don't think Jack changed much of anything. And why? It was good, it was solid, it worked, and they were successful. Like you say, just came off a state championship year. Why, pretty hard to criticize what we were doing. So, and I think there was, like Jack said, there's not that much different, I don't think, about what they did and what we do. But it was just pick it up from there and go on and see what we can do, see if we win some games. So.
That makes me think of another question. Do you think the fact that you're running a successful basketball program here at the school, that the players that come to you every year and you're winning state championships, that the kids they buy in easier to what you're trying to teach them, what you're trying to get them to do because of the success? They obviously know that. They're watching themselves. I mean, do you think that helped the current kids that you're coaching buy into what you're trying to do on the court?
I think so too. I think they knew our philosophy, and coming up through the junior high and basketball camps. We started that, and so they kind of knew what to expect. We knew that, and they knew that we liked to run, and we didn't run all the time. We never scored that many points. 76. We averaged 76 points a game.
Oh,
And we had one of our charts, we had a defensively hold people to 31 points or less. And so, little goals we had, and we keep going over these goals all the time in practices for tell kids what we're trying to do.
Right.
It worked.
All right, here's, I'm going to take it a different direction now. And this is just a basic question as a coach. How important was winning to you guys? How important was winning to you when it come down to being a coach?
Well, I've seen some coaches winning isn't the only thing,
Right, right.
but it certainly beats the alternative. But I mean, when you work hard and you prepare and you get ready, and we always try to prepare the best we could. Jake and I, we probably week of practice or tired on a Thursday night. Well, someone was playing that we're going to be playing pretty soon, and I maybe say, "You want to go scout tonight?" I'm tired. Well, we'd go, and we want to give them the best opportunity, best chance to win a ball game.
Right.
So winning, I say winning was important. It certainly is, but not at all costs. By any means.
Right. How important was winning for you?
Yeah, you play to win, and you prepare to win, like Jack said, and that's what we did. And preparation involved practice daily, obviously, but also involved being aware of what the future opponents were going to do. We scouted a lot. Jack and I went out and scouted a lot of games, and I think that was significant to just get a feel for what these teams wanted to do and how they wanted to play. And so that was a factor in leading to winning down the road. And that was the approach that you followed. And obviously everyone wants a win, but to prepare and to do the right stuff too, set yourself up to win, that's is important, I think, as far as leading to the final result goes of anything. So
Here's another question. How did you coaches make sure that the non-varsity or JV players felt like a part of the varsity team and that experience that was going on within the varsity team? How did you guys do that with the JV?
Well, I don't think they're trying to make it. They're all part of the program, whether you're a JV or a sophomore, or whatever it may be. And the winning is important and preparing for it. Certainly winning is a lot more fun than losing. And we were fortunate. We had some good, successful years. And we tried to, we'd have little goals every once in a while that we'd have the kids sign up first part of the year, what kind of scoring average you think you should have, or rebounds. And then, of course, maybe after about 15 games or so, we'd go back over those and say, well, are you happy with what you're doing? And that depends on playing time, whatever it may be. I don't know, difference in goals.
Well, maybe with the JV, you worked closer with the JV.
I did work with the JV.
So how
all the
did you
time,
let
yeah.
them know that they were important to what the varsity and what was happening with the varsity?
Well, we wanted to do what, obviously, what the team was doing, but we played more zone than man. But was I always figure it's a combination of man and zone we were playing all the time. But on the JV level, when I was handling the JV team, we would just about 90% of the time play man. So if we wanted to go to man, then we could do that more simply and more easily. And that was, this part of Jack's program, and that's how we prepared. I think the JV kids, they knew that they were on the team, no question about it. Every day we practiced. The JV kids practiced with the guys who were playing in the varsity games every game. So there's nothing that they're not a part of as far as that goes, even if they didn't play as much as they might have wanted or something some of the time. So